have built a deeper integration for SCCM. We were able to integrate with SCCM previously, but now it's a much more native experience. So here in SCCM, this is 2012, we added an application type. So if I'm here in applications and I want to deploy a new cloud-paged application, my workflow hasn't changed from a standard SCCM workflow. So I go in here, I say create application, and this drop-down that has all the typical things you would expect. We now have a cloud-paged application option. And to get this option, you do have to run an installer on your SCCM server, which installs this option for you. Once you select that, you need to input the location and web service key for your cloud paging server. And then it's going to bring up a list of all the cloud-paged applications that are available on that server. So I can pick any one of these. For this demo, I'll just pick VLC. And now all the follow-up workflow for this is exactly the same as anything else that you would encounter in SCCM for adding an application. It's going to add this to my list of applications. Then I can deploy it to any of my collections like I normally would. It functions exactly the same. The user will get the cloud page version of the application instead of a natively installed version. And one of the big benefits of that is, especially for larger applications where you have to wait for the bits transfer to take place and then for the installer to run and all that kind of stuff, really all we're doing is sending a command down to our player telling it to load a specific cloud-paged application, which is all the information we just saw on that previous screen. And it's going to load that into the player, and the user will be up and running fairly quickly. So depending on how fast your deployments happen and whatnot, your users could have access to some of these cloud-paged applications through SCCM in minutes instead of hours. Same with if they're using the self-service portal, it all works exactly the same. If they go into the SCCM or the System Center self-service portal, they can click one of the cloud-paged applications. It'll load up pretty much immediately on their system, and they're off and running. So this makes the adoption a lot easier in your environment if you have help desk folks that are accustomed to using SCCM, or you want to stay in that single pane of glass most of the day while you're working. You don't really have to leave SCCM to manage your cloud-paged applications. So we just added VLC. Now I can go in here and say deploy. All the rest of these screens are exactly the same as you would see for anything else that you're deploying through SCCM. So I'm going to deploy it to all my users. All the standard options are here of how you want to deploy this, when, whether you want to make it, required or available, deployment times, anything else that would normally be there for SCCM is still there. And then once you deploy it, it's going to push out that command to that endpoint and tell it just to load the cloud-paged application. It doesn't have to install anything. So that's our new SCCM integration. The other big change we made in 9.1 is we enhanced a lot of the features for VDI compatibility. We see a lot more people using non-persistent VDI, a lot more DAS environments popping up, so we wanted to make sure we performed well in that type of scenario. So I'm going to go back here to my player system. And we've added some output into the roaming profile area for cloud paging specific items. So I'm just going to open up Explorer here, and I'm going to go to App Data. And for this user now, we'll see we have some streaming core information, and this is the cloud paging component. So if I'm using like a UEV or a Res1 or something of that nature, you can grab this information along with all the other normal roaming profile information, move that around with the user, and when they log back in, maybe they're using non-persistent VDI, they log into that new session or that new instance. Your roaming profile management like Res1 can put all this information right back for them, so they don't have to re-cloud page any applications. It's already there when they log in. Everything works the same as when they logged out. So for the user, it's a very seamless user interface and user experience. We also added a feature called pre-caching, which allows us to pre-populate the cache on that system. And this is done through a COM interface, so I'm not going to demo it here, but if you want more information on that, let us know. We're happy to talk with you about that. But essentially, the result you get in a non-persistent environment is not only can we roam the profile information and what applications are cloud paged for that user very efficiently, when they log in, everything will perform very quickly for them because we can pre-cache all that information back into the cloud paging player cache. We also have the option to forego the cache and basically load everything right into memory. So again, if you're concerned about your image size growing or whatnot when it's either running or in a stop state, we can help you manage that. And again, if you want more details on that, let us know and we'll set up some time to talk with you about that. We've improved the command line interface. So anyone in the past that used core CLI, it was fairly limited in function. We've gone back and updated that significantly. Now it has a lot more features. You can add applications, remove applications, manage applications through the command line. This is very helpful, especially if you want to do like the pre-caching and stuff. You can help manage a lot of what's happening in that player through scripting. The bigger one, though, is we also added PowerShell commandlet. And this is one of my favorite new features is the commandlet, because now you can do everything in PowerShell, which I'm sure a lot of you have been looking forward to. So the commandlet's actually available through our support portal, and we will be putting it in the product here in the near future, but it's not there yet. I'm just going to go here and add the commandlet into PowerShell. Just give me a minute, and then I'll show you all the commands that are available. All right, so now I've added the commandlet. Let's take a look at the commands. These are all the commands available through PowerShell now for managing your cloud paging applications. So you can add app sets, you can find which app sets you've already got paged, you can get information about those as well as the player, you can remove them, you can start and stop them. Pretty much anything you would want to do with one of the cloud paged applications you can now do through PowerShell. This is a new feature, so if there's things in here that you want to do with PowerShell and you're not finding the right command, let us know. We're more than happy to add more to this as time goes on. We plan to keep growing this, especially since PowerShell seems to be becoming the predominant way to manage stuff on Windows these days. But just to give you an example here, we can see what version we're running. So this is the 9.1 GA version right here. The cool thing is we can do things with wildcards now. So in this example, I have my Adobe stuff over here. I'm going to close that down real quick. And let me go back to the player here. You can see we got Adobe Acrobat, we got ArcView GIS. I'm going to stop both of those just so we can play around with some of the commands here. Right now, I'm just going to remove Adobe Acrobat, and I'm going to use some wildcards here. So I have the question mark to take the place of the D, and an asterisk to take the place of the rest of that app set name. And when I run that, you can see there it's removing Adobe Acrobat for us. So very powerful commands now with PowerShell. You can do quite a bit with adding and removing applications. All right, on to some of the server-side stuff. Previously, if you wanted to use our enterprise portal, you had to have an on-premise server. So you had to have something either in your data center or somewhere that you were managing the cloud paging server. That's no longer the case. If you're using our hosted solution, now you can also point the enterprise portal to the cloud paging CDN. So here you can see on the enterprise portal configuration screen, we have either we're pointing it to the on-premise server, or we can point it to a cloud paging CDN tenant. In both these cases, you're still going to need to have LDAP or secure LDAP connection from wherever your enterprise portals installed to your Active Directory, as well as connectivity to the Cloudpaging CDN. And again, that could be something you have in your data center. You could have it somewhere in the cloud. It really can go anywhere you want to put it. It just needs to have connectivity to both those points. A few other quick items. I know someone had asked about device-based licensing. If I go to my Cloudpaging server here and look at the product license key, now you'll see we have max users or max seats. Really what this is max users has taken the place of, or is max devices, and max seats is max number of users. I think I said that backwards. Max users used to be concurrent users. Max devices it used to be max seat, or max seats used to be max devices. Sorry if I got that mixed up. Either way, if you want to do licensing based on devices, contact us. We'll fill you in with all the details on that one. Right. Over on the studio side, we made a few changes there as well. So now if you go in, and I know we didn't cover it in the demo here, if you have configurable application events, in the parameters you pass to those, we can now use any system environmental variable. So basically, what would be the output of the set command on your player device. So if you want to pass something to one of the scripts here, you can do something like percent system root percent, and then on that end device, it will use whatever set to on that system. So this is very handy when you are Cloudpaging one application set or one package to multiple different OS versions. You can use some of these variables that change on the different systems and pass those in as parameters to the CAE. Other things like the user, app data, all that kind of stuff, all that's available as well. One other change here in Studio, we actually added support for Windows Server 2016 in our 9.0 product, but the UI hadn't been updated yet, so now we have the UI update there. We also did the same thing on the server, so if you go into the server, it reflects 2016 throughout the product. Likewise, we also removed support for XP and Vista. However, if you have older legacy applications that you're trying to bring forward onto Windows 7 or Windows 10, you can still use our 8.9 version of the product on like the XP or the Vista platform to capture the application and then put it on a 9.0 or 9.1 server to deliver it out to Windows 7 or Windows 10. So you're not going to be able to use the newer Studio versions on XP or Vista, but you can still use those older Studio versions to capture that. The prerequisites for the server now get updated as well when we do the installs or the upgrades. So previously, if you were upgrading the server, we didn't always upgrade all the other components that the server uses, like Tomcat and struts and Java. Now we do that as part of the upgrade as well. And then the final feature, we enhance some of the player security. I won't go into details on that one. Some of that's in the release notes. And again, if you have questions on any of these, feel free.